have recorded this video several times and never got around to editing or posting it. And every time I do it, I don't know, it's like, I think because it's such a vulnerable part of my life, I just kind of sweep it under the rug, if you will. Something that I've kept so private for so long that I was just hesitant to share it and to put it out there. But I'm realizing that it has been foundational to so much that I've been able to do. It really helped me build a lot of confidence, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it also has opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I always say things make me a better DEI consultant or professional, but truly it's lived experiences that allow you to not just sympathize but empathize with other people, with other humans. So that's one thing. I also think it's important to share our experiences because storytelling is so powerful, and it's important to share your story with other people because you never know what other folks are going through. Never know what someone else could benefit from by just simply hearing you share your experiences and your stories. And so I want to do more of that because I recognize, especially as a Black woman, that there are things that I've done in my life or things that I've experienced as well that other Black women are also experiencing or have lived or are going through or might go through at some point. And I think there's still not enough of us. There still aren't enough of us sharing our stories and being very vulnerable. And so this is one goal that I have for myself this year is to just be more vulnerable. I'm pretty open and vulnerable with my friends, but again, knowing that I'm building this following, I think it's important for me to talk about more than just my work and to present more than just the professional Adrielle. Although to me, I tell people this all the time, my work and my life are very much integrated. What you see is what you get. This right here is kind of across the board at this point. And one of the reasons for that actually is due to my journey with my weight. I spent so many years being self-conscious and worrying about my body and my size and how it's perceived by others that now it's not to say I'm 100% like confident and secure with myself. I don't know if I'll ever be. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well, but I'm leaps and bounds away from where I was before. So let me rewind and tell you about how we got here and how I ended up getting weight loss surgery and losing and maintaining over 100 pounds for more than 6 years now. It's been over 6 years. I had weight loss surgery at the end of September of 2016. So enough introduction. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. Just really quickly, I want to give a shout out to Brittany Giselle, who I discovered on YouTube, who really inspired me to finally share this journey because I came across one of her videos and she was talking about her weight loss surgery journey. And I was like, wow, somebody else that's been through this. And not to say I haven't followed other people, but I think a lot of people, much like myself, after so many years post-op, meaning after your operation, after a while you sort of stop talking about it or documenting it. And full disclosure, I documented my weight loss surgery journey through an Instagram that only a few of my friends know about, but you can feel free to follow along or just kind of scroll through. It's pretty much a timeline. It tells a story, which I think is one of the pros of social media and tools like Instagram. It's secretly sleeved NYC. I'll link it below. Full disclosure, there are photos of me in bathing suits and underwear in some instances. And if you're afraid of human bodies, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is meant to be an inspirational thing, and it was important for me to document my process and share it with other people. And I actually made a nice number of connections by doing that, and there were people, especially early on after I had the surgery, that I connected with through that Instagram page, that I was just so grateful to have those people. Again, the power of people, you know, being vulnerable and sharing their experiences, but just grateful to have that, because it was really nice to have a connection with other people who are going through a similar process or the same exact process. So if you are considering weight loss surgery, that is one thing that I would encourage you to do, which is find other people that are going through the process to connect with and to join you along your journey. So why did I choose weight loss surgery? From the time I was around, I want to say 5 or 6, until I had weight loss surgery when I was 26, I struggled with my weight. I was either medically labeled as overweight or obese. And I know when we're talking about weight and looking at very traditional charts, they're really not designed with people like me in mind. And so I am being mindful of that. However, I was definitely heavy. I was overweight. I was certainly obese at various points. And I did a lot to try to correct it. I mean, when I was younger, my mom even took me to a nutritionist. I played sports. I was in dance. I liked going outside and being active. But one of the reasons that I wasn't as active as I could have been was that I was born with really flat feet. And so growing up, I had a lot of pain in my feet and my legs, and it made it hard to be active. So that was one aspect. And then the other aspect was that I just had a really, really unhealthy relationship with food. Food was essentially a drug. Like, and there's plenty of research that talks about this. Like, you eat certain things and it activates those feel good hormones, or I'm not a scientist by any means, so maybe it's not hormones, but those kind of feel good receptors go off and you get that like warm, cozy hug and feeling. Can't you tell I love food? I love food. I still love it, but my relationship with food has gotten a lot better. So I would say those were two of the issues when I was really young. As I got older, I got to college, and I think that's when I really had this like, I really feel uncomfortable in this body. And I was just, I grew up in Ohio, and then I moved to New York, and in New York, for a lot of people, the sidewalk is like your runway. And so I would see all these people confident, strutting down the street, looking good, feeling good. And I just didn't feel that way. I was always trying to hide myself. I'd be going to class walking. I'm like hiding myself, making sure I had, multiple layers on. I hated summer because I never wore shorts. I spent most of my childhood not wearing shorts. And so there were just all these things that sort of compounded and added up over time. I think it was, and I should mention that I was consistently trying to be active off and on throughout my entire life. I would try things, my weight would drop a little bit, I would get excited, then, it was kind of like this never ending cycle where, I would lose some, then I would gain some back. And usually when I gained some back, I would gain even more. And so by the time I graduated, I was out of college, I was working, I started really trying to lose weight. I was doing 2-a-days. I was using a tool called MyFitnessPal, which I think is still around. I haven't touched it, but I used that to track every single crumb that I put in my mouth. I had a food scale, like I said. I was measuring things. And even then, I lost weight, but it felt so painfully slow. It was difficult. And I got tired of it, and I was like, this can't be the only way. And then a friend of mine told me about weight loss surgery. And by that point, when I heard about weight loss surgery, I had given up on the 2-a-days. And I was at my highest weight. At that point, I think I was in grad school. So I had weight loss surgery around the time that I was in grad school, after grad school. I had weight loss surgery after I graduated from grad school, but I saw the photos of myself from grad school and I was just like, oh my goodness, who is this? Like, especially after I had gone through that process where I was doing those 2-a-days, and I felt pretty good about myself at that point, but so much of my life and my time was consumed with me stressing over, when am I going to work out? How long am I going to work out? What am I eating? How much does it weigh? Like, I was exhausted. I also had tried different weight loss pills, potions, lotions, cream, everything. It was not healthy. It was not good for me. So a friend of mine mentioned that they were exploring weight loss surgery. And I was like, I never really thought about that. In my mind, when I heard about weight loss surgery, I thought of people that were much larger than I was. Like I said, at my highest weight, I was, or maybe I didn't say this, but at my highest weight, my highest recorded weight, which was day of surgery, was 255. And I had certainly lost some weight by that time. So I think I was probably closer to the 270s at some point. But I stopped weighing myself because I felt so bad. I was so embarrassed and so uncomfortable too. And so friend told me about weight loss surgery. In my mind, I thought, people that were much like immobile to that point, of obesity were only considered or being considered for weight loss surgery or considering it. But I found out that no, people much like myself were able to get weight loss surgery. In addition, and this is really important, in addition to me feeling uncomfortable about my size and my body, I was also having health issues. So I was pre-hypertensive, which meant my blood pressure was up more than it should have been. I was pre-diabetic and dealing with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I had started taking metformin for it. I also had, and I should say still have, because it never, to my knowledge, doesn't fully go away, I have a skin condition called hidradenitis suppurativa. So I'm in the middle of editing this and realized that I didn't really explain what hidradenitis suppurativa is. Just really quickly, hidradenitis suppurativa is typically a sort of long-term skin condition. The causes of it are not quite clear. A lot of folks think it is autoimmune related. It basically is a condition that causes the hair follicles on your body, particularly where you have folds, such as like your armpits or your groin or your bikini line. You can get them on your butt, but it causes these very large abscesses, and they are extremely, extremely painful. I used to miss school, miss work due to these because they were so bad. So yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit more context as to what that is. It's also referred to as acne inversa as well. And yeah, you can go Google it, and I'm sure there are plenty of YouTube videos about it as well. All right, back to my original video. What was triggering mine was the skin friction due to me having excess folds because I was pretty heavy at that time. And so I was getting them under my arms. I was getting them on my bikini line. It was very, 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 very painful. I'm happy to say that for the most part, it is in remission now, and I haven't had any major flare-ups in several years. And again, another relief. But that was something that I found out that losing weight through weight loss surgery could actually change and improve, and it did for me. And so those health issues that I mentioned, being pre-hypertensive, pre-diabetic, dealing with PCOS, pretty much, I mean, the PCOS is still TBD, but the major symptoms like the pre-diabetes, I don't have any of those issues anymore. I'm in a pretty healthy place, minus being anemic, but I'm resolving that as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I found out all of these things could be helped by having this surgery. And so I started to explore it. The journey typically, if you do a medical weight loss and you do it through your insurance, which is what I did, it can take several months because you have to have, different levels of approval. My insurance required me to have a mental health screening, which, if nothing else, I can't stress how important and how transformative that part of my journey was for me and has been. I worked with someone. I found this black therapist who specialized in helping weight loss surgery patients, and she was so critical because she helped me really start to understand the relationship that I had with food, and I was able to unlearn and learn things as it relates to food. And so my whole sort of mindset around food shifted, and I kept seeing her after the surgery. That's very important to note. I didn't just go see her to get the mental health sign off. I saw her continuously after that. And my weight was taking such a toll on me. Just, it caused depression. I was constantly anxious. Like I said, I didn't like to walk outside. I missed out on so many activities and events, even in college, that I look back on now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I had gone. And, I think about, where I could have been in my life now. But then I have to stop myself because I'm like, no, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I had the journey that I was supposed to have. And truly, I truly believe if I didn't have that journey, I would not have the outlook on life that I have now. And so I had to go through all these steps. That took months. I think I started the journey May of 2016, and then my surgery date was September 30th of 2016. And again, the insurance had you do multiple checks. I had to go get an upper endoscopy, which is where they sedate you and they run a scope down your esophagus to check out, pretty much the upper part of your digestive system. So, your esophagus, your stomach, to make sure everything is good and, healthy for you to actually have the surgery. I also started seeing a nutritionist who was part of the surgeon's team. So I met with them regularly before surgery and then also after surgery. Let's talk about day of surgery. So the day of surgery, as I mentioned before, I weighed 255, and I think I weighed a lot more. Before surgery, I had to go on a liquid diet, so I certainly had lost a few pounds, but I stopped weighing myself. So the highest recorded weight that I know of is 255. My lowest weight, I was around, I think, 143 or so, and that was really due to me going through a stressful period in life. But I right now currently fluctuate between 155 and 165. Typically, I'm between 155 and 160 during the summer months when it's hot and I'm outside. I'll be outside. And then I'm usually around 160, 165 when it's winter and I'm kind of more sedentary or hibernating. So day of surgery, went in, they do the prep for the surgery. My mom, she came to go with me. I didn't really tell many people. A couple of my friends knew. I think like one family member knew, my closest cousin. The surgery itself, there were no complications, no problems. I was in and out. It is a the surgery I had was gastric sleeve or vertical sleeve gastrectomy, VSG, as you'll often see it hashtagged online. And so that's when they take your stomach and they reduce it to the size of roughly a banana. It's a laparoscopic procedure, which means that they're not cutting you wide open to do it. They are making small incisions, and then they use some tools to kind of go in there with some robotic arms and do what they need to do. So the surgery itself went pretty smoothly. The first day I was fine. I didn't have any pain. I was like, oh, this is nice. Okay. But then the second day rolled around. The anesthesia had fully worn off. I had tons of gas built up in my body because they have to insert some gas in there to kind of inflate you so they can work around and do what they need to do. So I was in a lot of pain. I had hiccups. I could barely walk because of the severe gas pains. I had some IV issues at one point where they couldn't, find my vein. Then I had a not so great nurse that my mom went and popped off on, but that's another story. I could barely sip liquid. So it was a little rough. That second day was a little rough. And then after that, it was smooth. Well, I shouldn't say it was smooth sailing, but it improved. I don't say that to scare you. That was just my experience. This was also 6 years ago. So I imagine that some things have probably changed as well. So I recently heard that they now do endoscopic gastric sleeves, which again, the endoscopy is when they go down your throat with the tube. So they can even do that now where there's no actual incision. So I'm sure things have changed. Different people react differently to surgery. So if you are looking to do this, don't let that discourage you. That was just my personal experience. I mentioned Brittany Giselle, who is also on YouTube and has been talking about her weight loss surgery journey as well. And one of the things she mentioned that I was like, oh my goodness, nobody else really talks about this, is like immediately after losing weight, I did not like my body. I lost most of my chest. When I say my boobs deflated, they deflated. My butt deflated. I will say that I was fortunate in that I didn't and still don't have like a lot of loose skin. It's hard to explain. So I don't have like the saggy, like stretchy loose skin that kind of dangles, but I do have some loose skin that is more dense. It's kind of, again, hard to explain. You can kind of see it a little bit if you go look on the Instagram page that I mentioned. It was definitely, a significant change, and it took some adjusting. And it's interesting because my body composition has changed so much over the past 6 years. It was definitely a real transition at first, and for a few months I was like, what did I do? Like, what? Like, I did not like it. Once I was cleared post-op, I started working out. Now, I have for a long time, again, like I said, I've been active off and on, but one thing that I had gotten interested in when I was doing my 2-a-days that I mentioned, when I was trying to lose weight by myself on my own without the support of weight loss surgery, was I picked up weightlifting and circuit training. And so I had already started doing that, and I did a lot of research. No surprise there. If you know me, or if you've watched any of my videos, no surprise, I did all this research. But one of the things I found was that if you're lifting enough and doing it regularly, that you can sort of avoid some of the loose skin. And so that is one thing that I tried to do. I ended up buying just a little adjustable dumbbell set. And something that I've done for a while is, like, if I am watching TV or a movie, I might get off my couch and just bust out a couple sets, do some squats, some presses, whatever. And I think that has helped over time. I'd be lying if I said that I consistently go to the gym. I do not. I have periods still, like before. I'm still working on that, where I'll work out pretty regularly and then I'll just kind of fall off. My saving grace now, though, I think, is that a few years ago, I got my baby, my dog, and she's 3 now, and she is still pretty high energy and requires walks at least 2 to 3 times a day. I'm tired. I gotta get it together. So she's pretty active. She requires walks 2 to 3 times a day. She also likes to play a lot, and she does not play. Like, she wants her playtime, and so that keeps me active as well. And that is a great way for me to just, by default, I think, kind of exercise and maintain some of my weight loss. Forgot to mention this, but one of the reasons why I also was sold on weight loss surgery was there was this one study I came across that talked about if you have weight loss surgery, that it actually alters your, I think, DNA somehow. And if you end up having kids, they are going to be less likely to be overweight or obese. And I want children, or at least a child at some point, or to at least try for one at some point. And so that was really important because of how much I struggled with my weight growing up. I experienced bullying. I lacked confidence, it was something that was constantly on my mind. And really, like I said, up until I had the surgery. I mean, there were moments I talked about, walking on the street and missing events and things like that. But it really took up a lot of mental space. Now I don't think about my weight. I get up and I look at myself in the mirror. I feel good about myself. I feel confident. I'm not perfect. There's still stuff I'm like, ooh, I need to do this. I should fix this. I should go, right? But none of us are ever going to be perfect, right? But I think it's important for you to get up and feel good about yourself. And, if I was healthier, I probably wouldn't have gotten weight loss surgery. I would have had to just do the work to accept my body and to work on it naturally. I mean, in most instances, you're supposed to have some medical issues related to your weight in order to have the surgery. So there is also that. But I was so uncomfortable in my skin. I didn't like it. I didn't like how I felt. My body was hurting. The added weight was hurting my joints. It was hurting my feet, which are already flat and causing issues with the rest of my skeletal system. High blood pressure, like I said, pre-diabetic, like all of these things. I was like, this is not it. I need something else. It's really important, though, to note that weight loss surgery is not going to work just on its own. It is a tool. People will say that's one of the things I kept reading and hearing people say when I was following folks on social early on in my journey and before I had the surgery. People were like, this is a tool. It's not a quick fix. It is a tool. And it really is. And honestly, it is by far the hardest thing that I've done in my life because it is permanent. I still love food. And for me, my surgery was still to this day, 6 years out, I can only eat a certain amount. I can't eat a full plate of food still. And so it worked, but it really messes with you a little bit, right? Like it really with you sometimes. Like I sometimes want to just sit down and eat a full plate of food when I go out for a meal with friends, right? Like I want to enjoy my entire meal and I can't. I almost always have leftovers. I have to take stuff with me or waste food in some instances, which I hate doing still. I've talked a lot about the good, about me gaining confidence, feeling better about myself, improved health, of course, but there's also some downsides that I think people skip over when it comes to weight loss surgery as well. So once you have weight loss surgery, you pretty much need to take vitamins and supplements for the rest of your life. Do it. If you have weight loss surgery, please take your supplements and the things that your surgeon or your doctor tells you to take. I have ebbed and flowed. At one point I was just like, I'm not taking these. I'll be fine. No. Your girl ended up severely anemic. I'm just now starting to recover and starting to feel better. And it is not a good look. You feel terrible. And when we're talking about anemic, people just think low iron. That affects your blood. Your blood is carrying oxygen to vital organs in your body. Take your supplements. Make sure you are going to get your annual checkups. Do not skip on those things. It's very, very important. And also, it's important to be aware of acid reflux. That is a very common thing and often complication that comes along with gastric sleeve surgery in particular. I've had a wild roller coaster with acid reflux, and I've had conversations with my surgeon about having gastric bypass, which basically you bypass the stomach to create like a small pouch, a fake stomach, if you will, which has less, it's less common for people to have acid reflux when they have gastric bypass. I'm not an expert, but gastric bypass was not recommended to me because of my weight. So had I weighed more, my surgeon would have recommended gastric bypass. However, if you end up with severe enough acid reflux that cannot be controlled with medication or other means, dietary changes and things like that, you may have to consider having a revision 2 bypass. So that's something I've talked to my surgeon about. Fortunately, right now, I've been pretty good about taking my acid reflux medicine, so I've been able to keep that in check. I've also been a lot more mindful about the types of food that I'm eating, dialing back on my beloved hot sauce, which is so hard. I love spicy food and hot sauce, but I've been cutting back on that, just being very mindful of acidic things, being mindful of how late I'm eating. All those things, they do actually matter. Another thing, shortly after having surgery, I was losing hair like nobody's business. And apparently it's very common because your hormones are readjusting, but my hair thinned out so much. I was like, Lord, is it gone? Is this it? Like, and hair isn't everything, but for Black women, you know, a lot of us, our hair is our crown and it's something we take pride in. That was pretty surprising, and I did not know to expect that. My hair grew back. It's fine. It's healthy. It's living its best life now. I have I call it my broccoli. We're good now. But it was definitely an experience. When I say it was coming out in clumps, I was like, if I breathed too hard, my hair was just there. Like, it was rough. So that was the thing. I also ended up shortly after surgery, about I think a year after my surgery, I had gallstones, which is also very common. And so I had to have my gallbladder removed. From what I hear, most people that have weight loss surgery end up having to take a gallstone medication shortly after surgery to prevent gallstones, and I did that, and I still ended up with them. So that is also something to be mindful of. What else? Oh, dumping syndrome. So dumping syndrome is also not fun, but it happens. It occurs for me personally, if I eat something that is too high in fat or has too much sugar, my stomach starts cramping, I start sweating, I might even sometimes get heart palpitations, and then I usually have to run to the restroom. And I do mean run. So dumping syndrome is also a very possible thing that you'll encounter with gastric sleeve. Again, it's a tool. It makes you become more mindful. I know now that, like, I don't want dumping syndrome. So if, you know, I'm presented with some high fat whatever, in most cases I'm like, I'm good on that. I'm not doing that today. So it does help you adjust your eating habits as well. Some people don't care and still just go for it. I think one thing also that helps me is that when I say I love food, I love all food, and I've always loved all food. Healthy, bad, fat, low fat, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, you name it. In all cuisines, I love food. So I will be just as jazzed about eating a salad as I will eating pizza and tacos. Like, I love all food. I've always been like that. And so I will say that has made my journey a little bit easier, because it's not hard for me to eat healthy foods. Before it was like, oh, I'll eat the healthy foods, but then I'm going to follow it up with a pint of Ben & Jerry's. Now it's like, oh, I'm going to eat the healthy food and I'm full. And by the time I digest, I don't really feel like eating nothing else. Or I digest and I still need to finish this plate because I know that this amount of food is what I need right now to get my protein for today. So it doesn't leave room for me to go eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's like I used to back in my 20s. Now I buy ice cream, which at this point I'm pretty much buying dairy free because my stomach doesn't really care for full fat ice cream like that. And it'll last me a month, if not longer. So things have just shifted so much. I've had moments where I have regretted the journey, just meltdowns, breakdowns from, like dealing with the anemia, dealing with the dumping syndrome, not being able to just go out and enjoy a full plate of food with friends. And that has broken me down several times. Now, not so much. I've pretty much figured out how to live my life and not let those things bother me, or to not let them happen. Like I said, like dumping syndrome. So things have improved, but yeah, that's pretty much that. Looking back, I would do it all over again. Like I said, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done. When you diet, you can just diet. It's temporary. If I decide to stop a diet tomorrow and go back to my old eating habits, then cool. This, for me, I've been stuck with it. Like, I eat the wrong thing, I feel terrible for hours. It's pretty much forced me to change my habits and maintain my weight loss. And again, it's a tool. It's not going to just do everything for you. You have to be willing to make the changes yourself. You need to have a good relationship with food, and if you don't, you need to be working towards that. The mental health therapy was key to my journey. There were also other things aside from my relationship with food that I worked on during that therapy journey as well. Had I not done those things, I don't know if I'd be having the same conversation, right? Had I not invested so much in that part of my journey, I don't think I would be where I am today. I think this was such a foundational step in my life for me to have the confidence and the courage to start my own business, to have the confidence and courage to start posting videos and content online for anyone to see, right? To be more vulnerable. And I don't think if I still in my previous, if I still had my previous stomach with my previous body, I would not be in that space. I would not have had the mental capacity, the emotional space to go on this entrepreneurial journey, because I was so worried about my weight and my body and my health all the time. It took up so much brain capacity. And when I tell you, I would cry for days. I hated myself. That's how I felt. I hated myself. And I was so frustrated because it's interesting. I've always been confident in terms of my ability to do work and to accomplish things, like in terms of academics. I did fine there. But when it came to things that required me to just present myself in front of other people, I was always worried. Growing up, I was a vocalist. I was a singer. I love singing, but I was shut down whenever I got on the stage because of my weight and how I thought people saw me and how I looked. And I stopped singing for that reason. That was the reason I stopped. So yeah, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took on this journey, this challenge, if you will. If I had to do it all over again, I would absolutely do it. It is not easy. It still isn't easy. Like I said, recently I've been dealing with anemia. Thankfully, that's better. And I finally got my acid reflux under control. I'm hoping things will stay. But again, take your vitamins and supplements, y'all. Like, if you don't do anything else, mental health, vitamins and supplements on this journey, and get your blood work done on an annual basis to make sure you're good. I've talked way longer than I said I would. If you have any questions, or if you have a similar experience, or whatever else, leave a comment. I'm always open to talk about more. I tried to cover a lot of things here that I think people would be interested in hearing, but I mean, it's been over 6 years. So there's so much to the journey that I could talk about. But yeah, feel free to check out the Instagram. I haven't updated it in a long time, but like I said, it pretty much documents my journey. If you are interested in learning more about me or my work, which is primarily diversity, equity, inclusion work, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, check out my other videos, and I hope to see you back here soon. Thanks, y'all.